Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this special program on Salam Media, your home of humanitarian journalism. It is Tuesday, the 4th of November 2025, and my name is Shabnam Palesa Mohamed. Wherever in the world you might be watching us from right now, we would be so grateful if you would share the link to this broadcast. We are sharing the broadcast on various platforms, including YouTube and Facebook. Possibly can pick up also on Instagram and X. It is such an important conversation, and we have excellent guests who I'll be talking about and talking with shortly. You see, a voice alone can be ignored, a people alone can be isolated, a struggle alone can feel overwhelming. But when voices unite across continents, when people connect their causes across oceans, when struggles recognize they're fighting the same enemy, that is when liberation becomes inevitable. So, welcome everyone to this crucial international gathering. And for the next 2 hours, we will connect the dots between fires burning across our world and plant seeds of truth, of peace, and of liberation. We're not here to mourn in silence, we're here to organize in solidarity. We will bear witness to the silenced genocide in Sudan, where millions have been displaced amidst a storm of violence the world often chooses to ignore. We will expose the economic and political warfare being waged against Nigeria, a nation whose sovereignty and vast resources are a constant target for imperial control. We will also be arming ourselves with one of our most powerful weapons, the strategic use of boycott, turning our everyday choices into choices for justice. And we've seen this strategy used so effectively for Palestine. And finally, we'll make the case why a Truth and Restoration Commission, a TRC, is not just a tool for the past, but a critical blueprint for justice and healing in Palestine, Sudan, Congo, and Nigeria. So this is not a moment for despair. It is a moment for determined and collective action. Our goal tonight is to move you and ourselves from awareness to strategy, from anger to agency. Let us begin. Our first guest joining us today from Sudan is AlMigdad Hassan, and he is a journalist from Sudan, amongst the many excellent journalists that we know are in the region. We're so grateful that he has made time for us this evening so we can bring him into studio to have this very important conversation.
Thank you so much for having me on the excellent show, and thank you a lot for amplifying what is happening in Sudan.
Absolutely. It's such an honor to have you with us, AlMigdad. Firstly, I think let's start with explain what's happening in Sudan and let's assume that our viewer or our listener actually has no idea. What can you share with us that connects where Sudan is now, past and present?
So, before we start about and delving in the main cause of the war, let's bring back memory in on April 15, 2023, when the war broke out inside the capital Khartoum between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces. The Sudanese army is the official army for the government here, for the country, and the rapid support forces is the forces that support the official Sudanese army. And on 2017, that made it an official by the parliament. So after the revolution, 2019 on Sudan, the power of the capital of the country being shared between the civilians and the military. So the military contains two main belligerent, Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. But the Sudanese armed forces is the main army for the country, and the rapid support forces working and support the main army. But on April 15, 2023, the war broke out inside the capital, engaging in brutal fighting between neighborhoods of civilians, between the presidential palace and main bases of the military. The rapid support forces surrounded the main bases on the capital back that time, and take over like 90% of the capital, and that is on in the first year of the of this ongoing war. After that, the war become brutal and brutal. Many thousands have fled the capital, and many millions have fled the capital, and many states in the Khartoum state, in Al Jazeera state, and Sinai state, and many states in the country. So after that, the war engulfed in many regions in Sudan, like Kordofan region, Darfur region, which is the main stronghold for the rapid support forces, and have like dominant there for their bases, for their fighters, for the border between Sudan and Chad, Sudan and Libya, and Sudan and Central Africa. So when we see right now that Darfur region being under full control by the rapid support forces, that is for dominant there, like there are 4 bases or 5 bases for the military have taken over by the rapid support forces on the past few months. And on the first months of this war, the rapid support forces and the Sudanese armed forces, the battleground is the capital. Only on on the capital Khartoum, it's a battleground for fighting. So after that, the rapid support forces talk about having the power and surrounding the commander of the and the commander in chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the sovereign state inside the capital. But when we look back at this brutal fighting inside the capital, the Sudanese army made advancement on September 2024. This an exact time when the Sudanese army make an advancement inside the capital Khartoum and inside the middle regions like Al Jazeera state, and regain control of the main bases in the capital and in the other region that have been controlled back that time by the rapid support forces. And after that, after the first months of this ongoing year, the brutal fighting changed to another battleground, which is Darfur. But when we see that right now, Darfur, it's all over controlled by the rapid support forces. The battleground right now in Kordofan states, which is separate between Darfur region and the capital Khartoum. So right now, the battleground for fighting is on Kordofan states, and definitely the humanitarian situations for millions have been fled their homes. Like 13 million have been fled to neighboring countries, have been fled to many states controlled by the government and the army, because the basic necessities in the states controlled by the army and the government is like good for living, good for having access to water, to basic necessities, to everything you need. And when we compare between the states that controlled by the rapid support forces and the state controlled by the army and the government, there is no comparison, because when we need to go inside Darfur region, there is no go in and there is no go out, because the rapid support forces the rapid support forces doesn't let you go in to do your work, to be as a journalist, to having access to aid and so on. The OCHA, which is organization led by the United Nations, said that the rapid support forces block the aid from Tawila, which is the main city right now. People fled Al Fashir toward Tawila. Tawila right now is blocked from aid, from life-saving aid, and so on. And it's the brief what is going on here in Sudan.
AlMigdad, thank you very much for sharing that blistering and very painful testimony. To hear how you describe it is palpable. To imagine the suffering of people feeling trapped in their own country by two different sides. One is the government, and one is, of course, the RSF. And we've been seeing the most horrific footage on the socials, at least for now, that people are waking up to, even though the Sudanese people have been calling out for many years for help because they feel trapped by all of these competing forces. I want to come back to that conversation, but I would like to share a very short clip, and let's hope that my sharing this actually works. Um, so it's a video that I had remembered from 2 years ago with regards to Sudan, and it's actually quite a famous one. Let's hope that we can actually screen it, but I think you will recognize it when you see it. And I'd like you to talk us through this particular video and why it's still so relevant. I, when I watch it, feel very emotional and very connected with the Sudanese people and the power in this particular message. Should be playing shortly. So that's the end of that video. Talk us through that video, AlMigdad, when it was, what was happening in the country at the time, and has that spirit of resistance persisted since then?
Yeah, it's a historic time of this video when thousands and millions of Sudanese people go to the streets to pro-democracy revolution and 2019 uprising through Umar al-Bashir regime. And after this revolution, the pro-democracy civilians have fell and take control of the regime and fell down of Omar al-Bashir that time, and after that there is the civilian government led by Abdullah Hamdok in 2019 after this revolution. And I think the Sudanese people back that time raising hope about making democracy in Sudan. But when we see that the war right now, like changing everything, changing every hope for the Sudanese people, all of these youth and all of these guys right now, even in refugee camp or in displacement camps, like everything is changed right now. So when we talk about back that time, 2019 and 2020 and 2021, we talk about civil power for Sudanese people and for like a civil government back that time led by Abdullah Hamdok, the prime minister. But when we talk about what's happening after this pro-democracy government, the 2021 25 October 2021, the Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, he is the guy, he is the leader right now and president of Sudan, with his deputy Mohamed Hamdan Daglo Hemeti, has made a coup over that government and change what's happening in Sudan to a military, like a military government back that time in 2021. And from that time, the Sudanese is struggling over like power between civilians and between military. But when things deteriorate in the last year, 2022, many of peace agreement, many of agreement between political and politicians and military leaders that led by a quarter back that time have led to make an agreement to a new government, to pro-democracy government, and the war engaged in the first months of 2023. 15 April 2023. So when we talk about the revolution, the uprising of 2019, we talk about hope of youth, hope of Sudanese people towards democracy, towards stability, towards peace, and toward civilian government.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, AlMigdad. Certainly another very insightful response, and I'm sure our audience is learning so much from you. Please share the broadcast to this conversation. Can you share with us, as a Sudanese person, what are the resources that Sudan has? We know that Africa is immensely blessed and perhaps cursed in some ways with immense wealth. Can you share with us, give us your perspective on Sudan's most valuable resources, apart, of course, from your incredible people?
Definitely, Sudan have a variety of very, very good resources. First of all, we talk about gold, we talk about River Nile, we talk about land, we talk about agriculture, and about like sheep and all of the animals that raising here by millions, and we talk about the Red Sea shore and yeah, port of Sudan, and we talk about oil also. All of these resources, I think, have made Sudan and the geopolitical position here in the Horn of Africa and East of Africa made the Sudan one of the main target for investors, like governments, and so on. So this is the main resources for Sudanese people, for Sudan here, and depending on definitely the gold if the first resource that rely on by the government rely on the gold here in Sudan and in the eastern states exactly.
Is there any evidence emerging as to who would benefit from the chaos, the conflict, the division in Sudan, whether it's governments or corporations or private individuals? Is there any evidence that you can share with us?
Definitely, there are many reports affiliated to many of the UN and many of organizations on online and on websites that told about who benefit from this war, who benefit from these resources. Definitely, and exactly in the area controlled by the Babi support forces. We talk about uranium, we talk about gold. There is many smuggling and cross-boarding groups benefiting from this, but there is no exact evidence and allegation towards name of groups, but there is many allegation about that Rabi support forces is smuggling gold and benefit to through political and military operation in Darfur and fighting Sudan's government.
Understood. Later in our show today, we will be in conversation with the developer of an app that can help people to boycott or boycott for Sudan. I'm just trying to bring that image up on screen, and for some reason it's not loading yet. Nevertheless, so this is a very important app that has been developed. It was built to assist the people of Palestine, but they've also now developed a campaign for Sudan, and I think that's also going to be a very powerful conversation. AlMigdad, no doubt you would have seen in the social media spaces, etc., this narrative that it is, again, a Christian Muslim issue that's happening in Sudan, similar to what they're saying in Nigeria. And it appears to be a constant rhetoric that these people are throwing out to say that it is Sudanese Christians who are actually being killed by Muslims, and it is actually a religious war and nothing else. How do you respond to that? How do the people of Sudan feel about that narrative?
About this narrative here in South Sudan, do you mean that Sudanese Muslim people kill the Christians?
Well, that's the
Is that
narrative
right?
that's been shared predominantly from the West. They say it's a religious war and it's Muslims killing Christians, and And that's
You
basically
mean
what
the
it
war
is.
in Sudan? It's a religious war.
That's what some people are saying. It appears as if they are being paid for disinformation, but it's confusing people who are asking the question about what's really going on. So, what is
Yeah,
your
it's
perspective
confusing,
on this
as you
narrative?
said.
Mm,
As a Sudanese reporter covering this war from day one, there is no evidence that it's a religious war between Christian and Muslim. It's the country, 98% of them are Muslim here, definitely after the separation of South Sudan. South Sudan is made of 100% or like 99% of them are Christianity. But here in Sudan, North Sudan, the percentage of Christian is less than 3 or 2%. So there is no evidence about saying that this is a war towards Christianity or between Muslim and Christians.
mm. And how would you explain to people now when you talk about North Sudan and South Sudan? How would you explain how that split happened, um, the history and where it is now?
The separation between Sudan and South Sudan,
That's right.
you okay? It's back that time in 2011 when they made a vote between Sudan and South Sudan to uh, um, there is a civil war back that time from like 90s and 80s between Sudanese army and the rebel group led by Dr. John Gallen. After that, they made a peace agreement in 2025 that let them after 6 years, I mean 2011, to make a vote if they want to separate or be as unity between Sudan and South Sudan. And the Sudanese and the South Sudanese people made their decision to make a new state, and which is one of the newest on the world back that time in 2011.
What are some of the challenges you experience as a journalist on the ground who is living in Sudan and doing your best to obviously cover what's really going on from every possible angle?
Definitely, I'm caring about my safety because when we cover the war in the capital in the very first day, the many articles, I mean the many artillery and many bombardment and terror that affect the Sudanese journalists, and many of them kidnapped, many of them have been killed through the military operation, not targeted, but by the military operation inside their homes, because the war engaged all over the capital. So my safety is above of my concern. And one of the challenges that I'm caring about is to access to reliable information and verify information from sources, because the communication is disrupted um, even in any time. Like sometimes we have been in a telecommunication blackout for more than 10 months non-stop. So when we cover in this situation, it's like you have no access to the world when you leave your office, because every infrastructure about communication only inside my office. But when we go outside my office, there is no communication with the world, and it's one of the terrified situation back that time in the capital Khartoum. But right now in the wartime capital Port Sudan, the infrastructure is good. Like there is a struggle, but not as it was in Khartoum when the war and the battleground in the capital back that time.
Well, let's hope it stays that way, where we see what happens in other parts of the world, such as Gaza, when there is a genocide and we seem to have lost AlMigdad. Might it be? Oh, you're back. Okay, wonderful. So AlMigdad, I want to share another video with you and just hear your thoughts. Hopefully, the app will allow us to share it. It's interesting how it becomes very difficult when you're about to share very important information. Let's try this once again. It's a very short clip, and I'd like to hear your perspective on it. Okay, let's try that again.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
There's a
Oh dear.
disruption in my
Um,
internet.
I see. Okay, so Sadiq, it appears as if we're having some internet issues. You can't hear me at all?
I can't hear you. There's a. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Well, as we said, we're bound to have these disruptions. I wanted to ask him one more question. Can you look in the chat? And we've just lost his visual now. Again, it's interesting how there's all forms of sabotage when we're talking about such important topics. So we have to just keep the show going. Unfortunately, we'll have to invite AlMigdad and other Sudanese people to the conversation again. I do want to, uh, if you could, Sadiq, if you could bring up that WhatsApp image that I've got there backstage, the one with the text on it. Yes. Can you hear us now, AlMigdad? We've just lost him again. So this is a tweet. It was posted on X, and it's from a Palestinian saying, "I was watching the news about Sudan and what's happening to the innocent people there. My heart could not bear it. I cried a lot. Maybe because I've lived through the same pain during the war in Gaza. Stop all the wars and spread peace. We are all human and we are all equal. From Gaza, I send my solidarity to Sudan. Our pain is one." Very powerful message. If you would show the next one, please, Sadiq. I apologize, it's not working on my side. This is a very powerful image that's also being shared across the social media. Don't stop talking about us, Palestine, Congo, and Sudan. We certainly know that they are common enemies and common profiteers to these three genocides. And the next image, please, Sadiq. Another very powerful meme that's been shared across different platforms because our struggles are, of course, indeed connected. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to bring him back. That is unfortunate, but we will certainly try. AlMigdad, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you right now. The communication disrupted right now because I
Okay, all
said
right. Well,
then
we have you for a few seconds. I just want to ask you one last question. What, you might have seen a tweet that I read from a Palestinian sending solidarity to the Sudanese people because they can relate to what is happening. And we're seeing many of these messages of solidarity, not only from Palestinians, but from the global South and from our allies in the West. What is your message to the world about how people can stand in solidarity with and support the Sudanese people?
definitely, I call upon the world, I call upon the United Nations, the regional organization, the any charity organizations to stand with Sudanese people. Sudanese people right now is suffering. Their suffering is unimaginable, and is catastrophe. So any kind of assistance, any kind of support, any kind of solidarity will be good for the Sudanese people, and any kind of amplification like your show. It's good for Sudanese people because it's one of the worst humanitarian situation, worst humanitarian catastrophe for Sudanese people, and the world doesn't know anything about what's happening here. What's happening here is that sometimes a genocide in Darfur and mass killings right now in Al Fashir by the Wabi support forces, and people are forced to displace their home, to fleeing their home with no any basic necessities, and no safe zone to civilians and Sudanese people. So any kind of assistance
will be good for Sudanese people. And I call upon the United Nations and the charity organizations to stand with Sudanese people, to stand with humanity, to stand with Sudan, and never forget Sudan, and pray for Sudan.
Absolutely. Powerful message there. Remember, the hashtag is not Save Sudan because that is a dog whistle to imperialism. The hashtag is Stand with Sudan. And of course, we encourage all humanitarian assistance to be given to the Sudanese people and to support the oppressed people in every part of the world. Thank you very much, Meghdad, for joining us today on Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Powerful conversation there with AlMigdad. Hassan. We're 5 minutes over our schedule, and so we're going to go straight to our next conversation with Dr. Hassan Gimba from Nigeria. And he has a very prolific resume. I think he might be backstage. Sadiq, if you can please advise. I'm going to read his part of his very extensive CV for now. Dr. Gimba is a veteran Nigerian journalist, writer, public commentator, and online publisher. He served as editor at the newspaper Leadership. He was once a spokesperson for the Nigerian Minister of Science and Technology. He's a publisher and editor-in-chief of the online media outlet Neptune Prime. He's also authored or compiled numerous articles, 500 being cited, mostly in politics, governance, and security in northern Nigeria. He's received an honorary PhD and many other accolades during his career, including Performing Journalist of the Year. He's involved in community development, including a school in honor of his late mother, and he's commissioned a cervical cancer healthcare center in the same region. He's also runs a foundation slash vocational training initiative for the families of deceased journalists and youth empowerment in northern Nigeria. So it gives us great honor to welcome Dr. Gimba, but it's going to be on the next link. So we're going to end this link, but don't go anywhere. Keep watching on Salam Media's platforms.